And good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that means it is time for Business Acceleration Playbook, where we're bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. And today I have co-host Coach Ray from Coach Ray Speaks podcast and Angela Buckley with Creatively Efficient. And I'm Maria Daniels with Reset Business Consulting. So today we are doing another panel discussion. I know last week we did a panel discussion with Angela Buckley leading our topic discussion. And today I was going to invite Coach Ray to speak. And I'll go ahead and let him jump in and let everybody know what he's going to be discussing today.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. When I speak about normally to businesses, particularly small businesses, is customer service. I mean, when people hear that, they cringe, right? When you know you have to call a large company about a bill, you have to call someone about a service, you hesitate in doing that. You don't want to make that call because number one, you're going to be on hold for forever. Number two, you don't know whether you're going to get your issue satisfied. And number three, you don't know whether you're going to be worse off than where you were before you made the call. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, absolutely. I feel like you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, exactly. So what I talk to people about is the art of the conversation. It's called motivational interviewing. It's actually a skillful clinical style of conversation. It's conversation where people talk themselves into change. And that's what motivational interviewing is. People normally hear that and they think of, maybe like I was a former football coach, so the rah thing. You're gonna get out there like if you were ever in a sales organization, you're gonna get out there, you're gonna walk your beat, you're gonna get those sales calls. But that's not what this is. When people call, and according to I think it was USA Today, I saw that in, or Forbes, maybe both. Customer service is at its lowest point ever, particularly in this country. When you call a service center, you really don't expect to get your issue resolved. That's just the way people think about it. That's what's in people's minds.
Right. Can you tell me how they're quantifying? What does lowest point mean? Lowest volume, lowest quality, lowest response rating?
I'd say lowest response rating and lowest quality. Okay. Again, when you're a call center and maybe 40 to 60% of your calls are repeat calls because issues were not resolved originally by the rep that someone spoke with, that's a problem. That's an issue. If you're giving credits or free material because issues were not solved, that's a problem. No, go ahead. I see you want to say something.
No. So it's interesting, I guess, when you say they're giving free credits because the problem wasn't solved. But I work in quality often, and right, as a Six Sigma black belt, my focus is on making sure that we do it right the first time.
Yeah. And
that is the focus of everything that I do when I'm working within customers with my clients, right? So to hear you say that we have a problem in the customer service, the beginning point was that we had a problem because we made the problem. That's where I start, right? Yeah. So in the Six Sigma world, we start backwards. We start by protecting the customer. So your customer service, to your point, but I need to understand the root cause of what that problem was to eliminate it. So I need two things to happen. Thank you, the people that are doing the people forward part of it. You keep me sane by placating the customer and solving their immediate issue. But that information also needs to come back to me and my team so that we can solve the problem so that the next customer doesn't have that problem.
Correct.
Right. Correct. So we start at the end of the line and we move up in working forward. So when we talk about our prioritization, because typically what happens is the more people that touch it, the more expensive the product becomes. Correct. So you start there from a business perspective, protecting the customer, moving forward, protecting your market value, market knowledge, and you move forward in your, whether it's a manufacturing process or a service process, because it costs less to have a defect at the beginning if we catch it, right? Like, so we do it based on money. So I guess my question is, again, back to that metrics, like, well, how you're gonna tell me maybe I'm understanding it's the second phone call. That's you would rate if you didn't solve it the first time.
Correct.
Now it's the second time.
It's the second phone call that comes into the center that stops perhaps another sale from happening, for example.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And customer service is a people-to-people business, isn't it? Wouldn't you say that? And a lot of companies don't treat it that way. They treat it as a business to consumer, or rather, business to consumer, or a B2B, not a P2P, not a people-to-people business. And and tell me if you think I'm wrong, when customer service teams are hired, whether it be for a call center or whatever it might be, sure, they'll teach product knowledge, but they won't teach how to engage a customer in a conversation. For example, training that rep to handle a difficult customer, a difficult call. So now someone like yourself, and I have black belt myself, a simple black belt myself, you have to work backwards. Even if you're working in workforce optimization, you have to work backwards to gain the trust of that customer again. Whereas if it were done right the first time, the first touch, the first call, there's no need for a repeat call. There's no need for a supervisor to get on the phone to try to appease a customer. I used to be a call center supervisor for a long time and a manager. And I used to get commendations about solving problems all the time. But why? It shouldn't get to my level.
Right.
And I know the fact that there are managers and customer service supervisors out there that are going home and going crazy like I used to, simply because their days are filled with problems that shouldn't even reach them. It's the representative that does not know how to handle that call, not the lack of product knowledge, but the simple fact of, well, if I can talk to someone and affect change in their mind without interfering in that, then I'm going to have a better call and a better outcome.
Oh, I agree. What do you think, Angela?
So I really appreciate the approach, and I like when you say that it's a P2P instead of a B2C, right? You're really personalizing it. So again, I like my numbers. I like to understand how that works and how we're recording that, and maybe even how the customer service center has probably multiple hats, but the two that I understand, so Angela's limited understanding, is on the one hand, we really need to make the customer happy. We need to understand and kind of root cause whatever their problem is, whatever that pain point is, and then dispatch effectively some sort of solution. But from that understanding that pain point, we also need to be able to understand how to communicate to the organization what went wrong, so that the organization can take that and create a data system in which they attack those problems to prevent.
Right. So let's talk about metrics for a moment. Average hold. Let's talk about a couple of KPIs that I know you must deal with. Key performance indicators, right?
Yep.
Average hold time, average talk times. If a company has a high average hold time, what does that mean to you?
They're under-resourced, or they have too many problems. Probably both.
And if a company has a high average talk time, what does that mean to you?
Either they're chatty or they can't figure out what the problem is.
There you go. Hit the nail right on the head. If I don't know how to solve a problem, I'm going to talk to that customer, continue to try to talk to that customer until maybe I can get to the point where I'm going to pass this call off. As a representative, that's what a representative is thinking. Let's be honest about it. A representative is thinking, if I can get rid of this call in 30 seconds, that's great. But if I've got to research and do a lot of quality things that I'm supposed to do, I may not I don't have the tools then to really solve the customer's problem. I'm just going to solve it on the surface, but I'm not going to solve the deep root of the problem. And then what happens? That call gets passed on to a manager or gets passed on to a supervisor. And as a rep, I'm going on to the next call, but that customer is not satisfied. So guess what happens? Now I'm going to call back into that call center because
Right.
now I'm upset. I've got to be in my bonnet because I wasn't handled properly. And now we're talking about the metrics going, and this is just one customer. But now your metrics are skyrocketing. And as a call center manager or someone that's responsible for metrics, you're trying to figure out, well, how do we regulate this? How do we figure out a way to bring these talk times down? And through motivational interviewing, which a lot of call centers are beginning to turn to, a lot of sales teams are beginning to turn to, they found a way to arm the reps with conversational skills so that if someone doesn't get as angry, someone doesn't call back into a call center to give a negative response.
Okay. Tell me about motivational. What are the elements of the motivational interview?
Good
Where
question.
do I start?
So I like to say you have to have your oars from the boat in the water when you get on the phone in the morning. OARS.
Yep.
So your oars are first asking open-ended questions.
Okay.
All right. So invite the listener to tell their story, for example. Invite the customer to tell their story. So a question like, good morning, help me to understand your issue this morning. Or something like, what do you think you would lose if you were to give up something, whatever that might be? Whatever open-ended question would tend for that customer to be open or to discuss more with the representative rather than, hi, how can I help you? How can I help you now? All of a sudden, oh, no, you can't help me. That escalates it. You can't help me. I want to talk to your manager. I've spoken to 5 reps. None of you have been able to help me. I want to talk to your manager. You can't help me. So another part of having your oars is affirmations. Now, these are gestures that really recognize a strength or a direction to make positive change. All right. So for an example, I appreciate you calling today. That's a great suggestion that you've made, sir. All right. Again, affirmations, all in the positive light. The most important part of the or, though, is reflective listening. And that's when you're using a pathway to engage a listener or a caller. Reflective listening avoids what's called in motivational interviewing the writing reflex. So, for example, I'm not going to give a response right away to try to solve the problem because I'm injecting myself in the problem by doing that. Okay. So as an example, if you have an actual interest in what's said, okay, so you feel that could be a start, or it seems like you be another start after listening to what the client or the customer has said. All right. And finally, the S in ORS, I'm sorry about that, is the summary. Okay. Let me see if I understand you. Is basically what you want to find out. You should be concise, and you should end that summary with an open invitation. Did I miss anything? Is there anything you wish to change? As simple as all of that sounds, it's difficult to implement because it's a change in conversational tone that most people don't do.
So it seems like it has some of the elements of active listening.
Correct.
But then it's a little bit deeper when
Yeah.
you start talking about the open-ended questions and the
Mhm.
affirmation.
That's correct. So it's a matter of reflections, as I mentioned before, simple reflections. There's simple reflections and complex reflections, right? The creators of MI, who actually this came from a psychological group, as you probably know, they use what's called the Iceberg Method, right? So it's what you see on top is the simple reflections, but the iceberg is bigger than that. It's the complex reflections that you have to really reach underneath that iceberg. So basically, that's 90% of what a customer is complaining about. It's that underneath reflection that you don't know. You don't know what's the cause of their phone call. Their cause of their phone call could be something that they got upset with their husband or wife earlier in the day, and now they're taking it out on the rep. That can definitely happen. So, for example, just as something I wrote down real quick, my sister doesn't want me to smoke anymore. And an answer to that could be, so you're thinking about cutting back on smoking because you love your sister. Again, just a simple response, complex response, difference. Most companies don't do that. Most companies don't take that into account. And thus, you have a lot of issues with customer service.
I think for the most part, people, even though they want their problem solved, I think they're more understanding when you can't solve their problem than if you don't at least try to understand their problem. People want to feel heard and understood, like number one.
Mm-hmm. And that's why MI is more person-centered than problem-centered. And again, that's another point that unfortunately companies don't take into account. If I'm a rep and I'm trying to solve the problem, I'm not really dealing with that person. I'm dealing with the problem. But if I'm dealing with the person and now I have that person on my side, now I'm being, as I said earlier, person to person, not business to person. If I make that phone call a personal call, there's a difference in the outcome of that call.
So I like to use the phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Mm-hmm. And I know it's cliche and it's probably a meme somewhere and on a bunch of stickers, but it feels like when you're talking about this reflection and these open-ended questions, you're actually trying to assess that person's vibe. And then that salesman's technique, right, of we know that likes like. So you're trying to establish a little bit of empathy by going there. And in that moment of human interaction, person-to-person interaction, you might have a better understanding of what the real problem is, the underlying problem, so that they have the hot second to voice their emotion without the emotion running over. And then you can begin to deal with whatever, let's just say, the technical problem is, right? So I think maybe if I'm understanding you correctly, you're kind of saying when people call into a help center, first of all, they're already upset because they have to call the help center.
Right.
So how do you diffuse and acknowledge the 90% of emotion in order to get to the 10% of actually actionable work?
Right.
In order to solve the problem.
That's it. You mentioned empathy. Empathy is 100% MI. And again, any training, like I've been involved in customer service training for years. But in any training that I've been involved in, the word empathy has never been used. And empathy is really was at the crux of anyone's business, to be honest with you. Let's face it. If I'm empathetic with a customer, I understand the issue. I can get to the bottom of it. But I'm not imposing myself in the issue. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for me, when I call a center, I cringe when I hear, "Hi, blah, 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 blah. Can I help you?" I cringe because automatically, first of all, if it's late at night, you're probably sleeping. Or you're not empathetic to my problem. You just want to solve the problem and get off the phone. The better representatives are the ones that ask more reflective questions. They're more empathetic about the issue that I'm concerned about, and we're able to work through the issue without injecting themselves into my problem.
So I don't know. I've never worked in a call center, so just, bear with me in my odd questions, Ray.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Don't call centers have scripts?
Yes, a lot do, absolutely, but those scripts don't necessarily lead a rep to get to the bottom of a problem. Let's take call centers out of the conversation for a moment. Let's talk about, let's say, counselors in schools, because MI is used there as well, right?
Okay.
Okay, so if I'm a counselor in a school and I'm talking to you and I'm looking to solve a problem, and I say to you, hey, Angela, what seems to be the issue today? And you tell me your issue. And the first thing I do is, well, guess what? You can solve that by X, Y, and Z. Now I've injected myself in your issue and that's called the writing reflex. I've injected myself in the issue and, okay, I'm done with you. Go away. That's it. But what I want to do.
So if you're going to ask me that, and I'm going to pretend I'm my teenage son.
Go for it.
My mom always wants me to pick up my clothes. I'm so mad. So what does the counselor say?
Well, if your mom wants
I'm
you to
in a
pick
bad
up
mood because mom made me pick up clothes, right?
Wow. So I understand that you're in a bad mood, and your mom loves you because she wants you to pick up your clothes. Don't you think?
Yeah, but she always comes in and just starts yelling about it.
Okay. So if your mom's yelling, what is that? What do you think? Why do you think your mom is yelling at you so much all the time about picking up your clothes? What do you think that would entail for you to do? Not just pick up your clothes, but what else?
I don't know. I just want to go play my video games.
Okay. Okay. So that's perfect. But you see what I did there?
Yeah.
I'm asking you an open-ended question. So now I'm not just talking about what's the immediate issue. I'm talking about what's surrounding the issue. Mm-hmm. And now I can get to the bottom of exactly what's happening. So if we had a further conversation, I would get you to see that by picking up your clothes is the right thing to do. And mom loves you. And mom's trying to teach you the value of picking up your clothes, being organized, and so forth. And that's the entire premise of MI, of motivational interviewing. Okay. So when I talk to customer service teams and sales teams about it, I break it down in 4 what I call signature programs. So I deal with composure, what I call composure-based leadership.
Composure?
Composure-based leadership.
So like your calm exterior.
You got it. Laying a foundation of reliability.
Okay.
Right. Discussing the importance of dealing with difficult customers and how to improve the interaction. Mm-hmm. And there's a phrase I love to use here. I know you like to use phrases, so I think you'll like this. Combative equals conflict, while calm equals confidence. If I'm if I'm calm in discussing something with you, you're not gonna, even if you're angry with me, you're not gonna be that. You're not gonna be able to keep that up. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna be able to sustain that. And by me being calm and having that, I guess you can call it a shield, I can get to the crux of the problem. So next week we talk about prevention-based leadership. All right, we talk about neutralizing that explosive customer and learning the importance of emotional control. All right, and I like to think of reps as being the microcosm. They should know information not just about the product, but to avoid second-level escalations. If something is coming at me, when I was a rep, I prided myself, this is umpteen decades ago, but I used to pride myself on, I'm going to deal with the customer. That customer's not going to my manager. They're not going to my supervisor. I'm going to solve the issue, and that's the end of it. I'm not saying that I was the best representative, but I know through that method and learning stuff like this, I used to get fruit baskets. I used to get all kinds of stuff. But again, using, and I didn't know I was even using this technique. But the fact of the matter is that if I'm able to engage in a conversation, the type of conversation that will de-escalate a customer, I'm going to solve the issue. We're going to actually have a better conversation. Third is deficiency-based leadership. So how to prevent being overconfident in past performance. if I solve an issue and I'm great at solving an issue and I have a history of that, I'm just going to rely on a history of what I've done, and I'm not going to look forward to getting better. All right. And also dealing with corporate toxicity and limitations that has on productivity. All right. How do we transcend simplistic strategies so that you can go from theory to practitioner, which is big in the customer service world. Right. And then finally, something I like to call custom-based leadership. Basically creating a succession plan within a call center situation. Most call center situations, there is no succession plan. You're hired, you work there. There's high turnover in most of those jobs, but there's no succession plan. Okay, how do I become a supervisor? How do I become a manager? How do I move on to other places within the company? Normally that's not done. And in addition to that, building positive relationships and how that can create a brand impression. Every call that comes into a center, this, creates a brand impression. Am I going to be a brand ambassador for your company because of the interaction that I've had with that rep? Or am I going to my neighbor, hey, listen, don't call Angela's company. They are horrible. I had the worst experience. Don't buy anything from them.
I was going to say that if manufacturing did their job, they shouldn't even have to call the call center.
But they do. I'm sure they, not just with, in your business, I'm sure, but in other businesses they do. And they call, and people call a lot.
That's true.
Maria, you're quiet.
I'm soaking it in. I'm thinking, because this, obviously this can be used in any business atmosphere. And, you've mentioned a lot of great points with talking about empathy and all of that. And I think for a long time, empathy in the workplace was looked at as a negative. You were too empathetic, you were wearing your heart on your sleeve and all the other phrases, that has been thrown around. But, at the end of the day, being empathetic doesn't mean you're a pushover if it's being done correctly. No. That means you're trying to understand whether it's a customer relationship or an employee relationship or whatever. Mm-hmm. Being empathetic is super important to just be able to understand the reason, the why, and be able to get to potentially solving any problem that there may be. So, and I worked a call center. It's been like many, many moons ago. I worked a call center back in the day, and it was a interesting experience. I was trying not to be negative, but it was definitely an interesting experience. But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about customer interaction. I also learned a lot about toxic work environments, because I think a lot of call centers, I think that's why there's such a high turnover rate in all of them, is just because of that.
That's right. That's right. Customer service is really the leadership point in your business. Those are the folks that are talking to your customers. That's where the branding effect takes place. So whether it be a manufacturing plant or a service-based business, if I'm calling a call center, I'm expecting to have my problem resolved. Unfortunately, what's happened in the past several years is that if I'm calling with a problem, I don't get that problem resolved until I have the third or fourth phone call. I remember, and this is God's honest truth, I was a manager at a call center, and someone got my home phone number.
Oh my.
And tracked me down and had a phone. And I used to work like a 1 to 10 shift when I was at that position. I was home at 11:30 at night and got a phone call saying that it was a phone company. Their service had been out for days, and we couldn't correct it. We were trying to correct it, but it had gotten out of my hands. Well, they got my name, and at 3:00 in the morning, I'm waking people up to try to get this person's service restored. So, but it shouldn't get to that point. It should never get to that point. No. And of course, I was upset with the representative that gave up my home number, but nonetheless, you don't, when a representative is on the phone like that and doesn't have that kind of training, they're going to resort to anything to get that customer off the phone.
They're in panic mode.
Exactly. It's exactly where they are. And businesses do not teach people how to deal with reps that are in panic mode. It's just not done.
So I'm going to
go ahead, Angela.
I'm going to go back to my Six Sigma background, right?
Go for it.
One of the opportunities that we have, so during this motivational interview, what we should be listening for are key words, cue words that are helping us, because if the company has done a nice job with understanding what the common problems are, then you should already have some training associated with basically a mental diagram. It should be documented, that would allow them to ask questions that go down a decision tree.
Correct.
In order to understand the root cause. And then once you understand your root cause, you should be able to empower your phone representative to make some decisions. It's been my opinion, or it's been my experience in calling call centers. And disclaimer, I don't work for any call centers. So, and I don't work for in my current situation with any call centers, but calling and talking to these poor representatives, they are so disempowered to be able to make a decision. They haven't been trained. The company doesn't understand its own business processes. So then the call center representative, they have no power in order to even help. And yet they're the ones that has to deflect all of the emotion.
The power that you're absolutely right. The power that they have is they can give a credit, or they can send something free. I worked in a situation once where this was, we were selling cream that helped your under eye situation.
Oh, I need some of that. Can you send me some?
No, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want this stuff. And we were actually told, and this is the honest truth, we were actually told to say, well, my mother used this cream. Well, my grandmother used this cream. It was great. So I can give you a 2-for-1 deal and send you more. They gave a 2-for-1 deal at the outset of the call. Then it was our job to sell more. Oh, you need something went wrong? I'm sorry. I'll send you more free product. Now, guess what? The poor soul at the other end of the phone is so grateful because you're going to get more product and we're going to try to solve the issue. But guess what? I'm just adding on to the issue because that person's going to call back and want more, but it's not going to solve the issue. It's not going to solve the problem. Most sales groups, particularly in service centers, that's what they do. And that's why a program like this is necessary. And we've begun to roll it out. We've had success with it. My only issue is, and dealing with anyone that listens to this and works in the call center, at some point, you have to put a stake in the ground and understand that, you know what? I'm here to help someone that makes a purchase from us. If I take that and I'm just giving credits out, or I'm just subsidizing them, whatever it may be, I'm not solving the problem. The issue is to solve the problem. And until call centers do that, they're going to continue in the rate that they're going.
And that could be said for any business. So even if a small business owner is watching this right now, maybe they have a few sales reps, or maybe it's just them, and they get a call about a service or product that they sold. A lot of these points that you're talking about can still be used to be able to diffuse any situation. And I know earlier when you started speaking, you were talking about just the fact that, something else that somebody is going through can have a big impact on what person's going to be on the phone at that moment.
Sure.
If it's been one of those days, and we've all had them, where every single thing is going wrong and you keep looking up for the dark cloud, it's hanging over your head because something's going on. And it's just one thing after another. And then you have to make this call, and we've all made those calls to somebody because something that you bought or purchased or a service you use is not, doing what it was supposed to do, and the person on the other end of the phone has no idea what you're talking about, has no idea any of the situations that's going on, which just adds to your frustration level. So, there is something to be said for kind of understanding from a perspective view where that person is coming. And it's not too hard to tell usually. We've all been on the phone and we've been that person too. Like you could tell, it's like, ooh, girl's having a bad day, and
Yep.
that's fine, and we all have them. But I think, even the entrepreneur or the business owner that's kind of listening to this right now, I think it's important to really take a step back and look at some of these things that you're saying, even from that standpoint. It doesn't have to be a call center, or a large business with,
Right.
many, many tiers. It could be a situation of, even if it's a one-man show, there's aspects of this that can be utilized to be able to make sure that customer relationship, stays intact.
Here's a nugget for you, and you're so right. What I tell people all the time is, you know what? You spend so much time going after new business, but what about the customers that have already worked with you, purchased from you, right? So now I shouldn't worry about new business so much, but I want to establish business with someone that's already spent money with me. You know why? Because now they trust me. They've given me that credit card information. I've delivered to them. They're happy. So now why not expand that relationship? A new customer will buy from me once, but a customer that has already purchased from me can buy from me maybe 5 or 10 times in that year. And now my revenue is skyrocketing because I've got a great relationship with that person. And I know that I've asked the right questions, and they're not coming to me, calling me 3, 4, 5 times because there's been problems.
Absolutely.
The small business, unfortunately, again, a lot of small businesses don't recognize that.
No.
They're looking for the new customer. And when they get defeated because they're not getting the new customer, well, you know what? Go back to the receipts of the people that you've already spoken to and perhaps make contact with them. Hey, what else can I do for you? They've already bought. They've already purchased from you. They trust you.
So, Ray, that's a really great kind of segue. We talked about the motivational interview process. How do you use that motivational interview to reach out, maybe even in the concept of writing your blog posts or writing your newsletter as an entrepreneur? It's one of those ways that you can maintain those connections. Can you use some elements of the motivational interviewing and apply that in order to drive that engagement within your lists?
Sure. So let's go back to something I mentioned earlier, composure-based leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
By your blog posts, you're laying a foundation of reliability, because people are interacting with those blog posts. Again, those are customers that have purchased from you, all right? With your blog posts, you're establishing a goal-oriented methods, basically, of how you're doing business. So now I can use those blog posts, getting an idea of what my customer's looking for, to write exactly, what they may be seeking and engaging them in opposed to someone that's new.
When you talk about the 4 different types of leadership that you have, do you have graphics that go with them? How do you share that with your groups, or how long are they like? Do you have hour sessions, or how does that work?
That's great. That's a great question, and we don't have enough time here for me to go into all of that. But what I do, each component or signature program can be either an hour and a half, or it could be a full day.
Mm-hmm.
There are graphs and graphics that are laid out, but it's also more of an interaction. We'll go into wordplay, basically, like you and I did a little earlier, and we'll actually break it down and teach exactly how, why, and when. And here's an interesting case, and it's just making me think about this as I'm talking about it. I actually injected this, and I wasn't supposed to, in a training that I did with the government recently. And we were teaching, it was done virtually, and we were teaching a group in Texas. And I talked about what composure-based leadership is. Of course, no one knew. Like, what is that? What are you talking about? It wasn't on the script, anything, but I just felt it was important. When we talked about reliability and building trust, I never had so much engagement with any group that I've taught, because that hit home as not just a consumer, but someone on the other side of that Well, how do you engage trust? Just I don't understand how that works. Both you and Maria, Angela, mentioned it earlier. The word empathy,
Mhm.
which they never really related to their job. It's not taught. It's not mentioned. Most customer service teams are, listen, here's your script. This is what you're saying. That's the end of it. But if I'm empathetic to the customer, now I have a relationship with that customer. Now I can understand the bottom line. And once I understand the bottom line, I can solve the problem. Again, I'm not, and I've said this about 7, 8 times already, I'm not injecting myself into the solution. I'm giving a reflective statement to actually understand what someone is trying to get.
Mhm. It's you remind me of some phrases we've been using around here lately. We've been reading Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. And speaking of empathy, right? We talk about not having the problem between us, but coming together and having the problem in front of us that we're working to. So sorry, my hands are really big in the screen, but
makes a big impact.
There you go.
Yeah. They're really not big hands. But really, I appreciate the visual of coming together for that empathy and having the problem in front of you instead of between you. Yeah. And you can apply that, yes, of course, in personal relationships, but in business leadership, in working together, and even in this situation where we're talking about trying to help the customer through their problem. Hey, we're on the same side. We're going to work through this instead of adversarial approach.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because 9 times out of 10, when you call a call center, that's the exact approach the customer has, right? That's what's in their mindset, an adversarial approach. Oh, wow, I've got to get through this person, and then I'll be connected to this person, and I've already been on hold for 15 minutes.
And the call is probably going to drop while you're getting transferred.
Yeah. So you already, that when that person comes on the line, they're already upset.
Yep.
Already upset. So again, this answers, how do you deal with that? Because again, as I mentioned before, the how can I help you phrase, I'm sorry, it doesn't cut it. For me, I get upset because what am I going to say the first thing? I've been on hold for 15 minutes. I've done, the call's dropped. I've had to call back. I'm going to give that rep all that I'm feeling in that first minute of the call. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is more of a me thing, right?
Yep.
So I recognize my emotion when I call and I'm that level of upset. So I apologize for the rep. I'm like, I want to apologize. I know that it's all my emotion, but I'm going to tell you, this is my emotional level.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get it out in front so you know that this is my emotional level today.
Yep.
And I'm not angry at you. Like, I feel badly that they have to cope with my emotion at the moment, but I tell them I am not aiming it at you, but I am very frustrated with this situation.
So trust me, you're better than like 70% of the country. Okay, because the first thing that I'm serious, because the first thing that, listen, me, I'm a nice guy. I'm as polite as can be. But you know what? I'm going to give it to that rep, because you know what? I'm upset. I'm upset. So that person's going to hear me vent. You're going to stay on the phone and listen to me vent, and then I'll go. And then you better make sure that you solve my problem. Well, guess what? That rep now is all over the place. Instead of having the calmness and the confidence to deal with the situation, they're upset because I'm upset. But now if I can reflect to understand just exactly what their issue is, their issue is not the reason that they're upset. They're upset because they've been on hold for about 50 minutes. Or the call's dropped and they've had to call back about five or six times. Or they've been hung up on and have had to call back. Let's lay it on the line. That's happened too.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in call centers where the average talk time is only 30 seconds. No, something's wrong with that.
How? You don't get your name out. Wait.
There you go. That's it.
You should have seen what my maiden name was. It was like this long. So I wasn't even done saying my name.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So,
but that's what happens.
So I think that, I'm sitting here thinking about some of the stuff, and this is how my brain works. But you mentioned earlier about a lot of the employees or the people answering the phone a lot of times can feel disempowered, like they don't feel that they're empowered to be able to do the things that are needed to do to make sure that there is a good solution for the person on the other end of the phone.
Right.
To me, that kind of puts it back into perspective that there definitely needs to be, a level of that same empathetic approach on an employee level to be able to empower them to be able to give that empathetic approach to the customer. Because, again, we've all worked those jobs where it gets to the point where, like, screw you, we go and do barely what is required of us and not one more thing because we've done 150% all the time before that, and it was never acknowledged, right? So we all have hit that level to where we show up because we still need a job while we're looking for another job, and we're doing just enough, right? So, I think if you kind of trace that back to say, to realize that all of these employees that we have personal lives, have, goals, have dreams, have needs, have all the things that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we, approach that from an empathetic approach to empower them to then go and do that same thing to the customer. I feel like that's kind of approaching it at a grassroots level.
Oh, absolutely. Again, most companies don't realize that the leaders are their customer service teams. That's the lead. Those are the people that talk to your customers. Those are the people that get the credit card information. Those are the people that engage those customers. They're the leaders of your business. If you don't treat them properly, you're not going to have a business very long. And if you're a small business, these are things that you need to be doing every day.
Yeah.
You need to be engaging with your customers, and because, again, if you're a one-man show or a three-man show, you can't pass that on to anybody else. You need the techniques in order to engage these people so that they become repeat customers and not go to the next guy.
Absolutely. Because, I've seen a lot of businesses do what you were saying before. They were focusing on lead gen and filling that funnel and all those things that, honestly, I completely hate. When I've taught my sales training courses, I make a lot of people mad because I teach against that, because it doesn't make any sense if you're running after new business, if they're falling out the other end.
There you go.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
There you go.
Absolutely. Hey, I have a listener on, so let's have a shout out for Marcy. Thanks for listening.
Hi, Marcy. Thank you for listening. Yeah, awesome. We've had a couple of people. Stacy was agreeing with us on a few things. She was saying the tone is everything earlier, and then Larry popped in to say hi.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of these things, I think we try to overcomplicate.
Yeah.
What is going to fix a lot of solutions. And, really, it doesn't have to be that complicated. You trace it back to empathy. Honestly, that can solve a lot of things. Just understanding solves so many things.
Mm-hmm. Empathy, but also you just mentioned, someone mentioned tone, pitch, just the way just the way you speak to someone when they answer the phone. Customer service, can I help you? Composer, good afternoon. How are you? And so forth. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Of course, having a nice voice helps too, but if that nice voice is in the wrong tone, well, it's all over.
Yeah, it'd be great to have a voice smooth like butter, but I don't. So I just do with what I have.
I think you give yourself a hard time, Maria.
Yes, you do. Yes, she does all the time.
It's all right. I'm completely confident in it. It's good. So for somebody that's listening right now, that are wanting to take these steps to maybe learn a little bit more about the things that you were talking about, and is there a place that they can go, that you can kind of send them to, as far as like your website or your YouTube, whatever, wherever they can go to kind of find out more?
Sure. If you go to www.coachrayspeaks.com, that is my website. It lists actually the 4 signature programs that people can learn about, and my contact information is there. But
just don't call him at 3 a.m. or 11:30 p.m. or something like that, right?
No, but wait a minute. See, here's the kicker, right? For my podcast, we give. See if I have a picture, a copy of one, or actually a card here. Yep, I do. I don't know if you could see this, but On the podcast I do, we give a corporate card, right?
Oh, there you go.
As a thank you to guests that come onto the show. And this corporate card actually offers national discounts, like at 30% for Budget Rent-A-Car or Hertz, for example, or Lowe's. But you know what's on this card? It's my phone number. It's my cell number. So I can't say you can't call me at 3 a.m. because I believe I get calls at 3 a.m. But that's doing business. I actually got a call at 3 a.m. about appearing on the podcast, believe it or not. So, it happens. But it's that's the price of doing business. So what are you going to do?
I won't take it. Don't call me at 3 a.m. I'm asleep at 3 a.m. I need my sleep. You can call me at 4:30 a.m. because I'm up by then. But 3 a.m. I'm asleep.
I get up every morning about 4:30. I'm at the gym. So yeah.
Guilty. Yeah. Now you know what time we get up on this podcast. We are 4 a.m.ers here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Time my alarm's set for also.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, first of all, I'm super glad that you jumped in to have this chat today. I think being able to talk about these things as a panel discussion is just as important as having a guest on. And I think being able to kind of dive into some of these topics that people can pull out information to be able to implement in their own entrepreneurship journey or their own small business, because it is a journey. And for people that are just starting it, go back and watch some of the past shows. You'll pull out nuggets, get a notepad. And I know I was watching one the other day, and I feel like even though I was in the conversation, I was like, oh, I didn't even pull that nugget out of it at the time until I was like listening to it. Because I'm trying to get some little clips to be able to put out there to, promote some more stuff. But, it's funny just listening to something one time, you might pull out one or two things, and then you listen to it another time, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even catch that. That is brilliant. And it's something that I'm actually implementing right now. So, if you're on this entrepreneurship journey, wherever you're at, you always have things that you can learn. And, like we've discussed here, sometimes it's the most simple things that make the biggest impact and the biggest difference. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I know for me, when I started my business, I tried to overcomplicate all the things, and I had to dial it back and just simplify it. And simple works all day.
Right.
So, I think it's been a great conversation. It's, some really great tips. Empathy is where it's at. And, I appreciate you being on today.
No, thank you much. I appreciate that.
I know you're not a guest. You're just here to stay, but I still appreciate you.
Hey, no, I appreciate you guys. Again, people have to realize that business should be person-centered, not problem-centered. And I think once you make that shift, you find you'll do better in your business when you do that. By the way, I don't know if you want me to announce it here about Roku TV and what.
Go for it.
Okay, so totally, go for it. It's all you.
So this is going to be something that you had mentioned that you're going to be pull nuggets, or pull clips of past shows. Well, guess what? This show is going on the ISA, or Impactful Solutions Academy channel on Roku TV. That will begin June 1st. So you can see all of the shows that we have done. It's isatv.fun if you want to take a look at the website. And again, it begins broadcasting June 1st.
Awesome. It's exciting.
It is. It's super exciting.
Yep.
And Angela, I want to thank you for being on today too. You're always, I love your questions and the way your brain works. And you think of questions that I would never think of, like 9 times out of 10, which is great. I love having just so many different thought processes, because I think that really allows, the viewer and the listener to be able to think about things from another perspective. And I think that is so important, because, we only know our own perspective of anything. We are never going to know somebody else's perspective unless we try to, again, empathetically, put ourselves into their shoes and kind of listen to how they've experienced their entrepreneurship journey or their business journey, to be able to, try, because you never know, you have to try things out to see what works for you. So I think that's been great.
True statement. Hey, Ray, really appreciate how you put some structure around all of this and tied that all together with your 4 signature classes, and also the oars, getting your oars in the water. Again, I'm a big fan of nice phrases and nice analogy. I think it helps people remember. So going back to my little bit of learning and development training for adults. So
Well,
appreciate everything you brought today.
oh, I appreciate that. Thank you much. But listen, you guys are the experts. I'm just here. I'm just here trying to put my oars in the water. You guys are the experts.
It's been great. It's been great. So make sure you go to CoachRaySpeaksPodcast.com. Is that the website?
No, CoachRaySpeaks.com.
CoachRaySpeaks.com. Okay, CoachRaySpeaks.com to check out more from Coach Ray. And when does your podcast actually lean into the website as well?
No, it's isatv.fun.
It's on there. Okay, well, go to istv.com. Fun then. All right, so go listen to this podcast. You've got a great show. I love your show, and
Thank you.
You didn't really talk much about that today, but it's a great show, and it's worth a listen. And I think everybody needs to go check it out. You can pull out some more nuggets. So, and we're waiting on Angela's show to start. We're still
yes, we have to get Angela's show up and running. Absolutely.
Dissertation.
That's what you can tell. You can call it dissertation. I'm fine with that. So
there you go. The dissertation podcast. There you go.
All right. Well, until next week, we'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another episode of Business Acceleration Playbook, where we're bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. And thanks, everybody, for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye, folks.